When you're passionate about something, you always have that idol, that hero that you look up to. And today I'm joined by Mr. Paul Bashir, co-founder of the most global animal rights activism group in the world. So Paul, let's start with some controversy. Given the rumors about finances within AV, how did you manage this luxurious palace and the lavish lifestyle of a king that you lead?
This old raggedy place? I have no idea what you're talking about, to be honest. This is nothing.
Would you like a grape, Mr. Bashir?
Oh yes, of course, thank you.
What is this? What about me? Why him? So Paul, you are known to be straightforward, harsh, even a savage maybe sometimes. Do you find this an effective way of expressing yourself, or are you just an asshole?
Well, I think that it's dependent on the person I'm speaking with. If I feel like I'm talking to somebody who's really entitled and borderline psychopathic or even full-blown, then I adjust my tone and the way I speak to them accordingly.
All right.
I don't like to be an asshole to anybody. I don't like to be harsh. I don't like to scold. I don't even really like to roast people unless it's someone who can take a joke or they understand the purpose. But I see it as necessary, because if the person I'm speaking with leaves that conversation feeling comfortable and just considering what I've said as food for thought, I don't feel confident that real change is going to happen in a timely manner. You know, I am focused on change, right? I'm an activist. And therefore, I have to be prioritizing making change in the quickest amount of time possible.
I see.
And over the years that I've been doing this, I've learned that if you just simply give people education and information and you point things out in a way that's just food for thought, that will lead to them taking longer than they will normally need to take, than the animals need them to take in the case of animal rights activism.
I see.
So I really don't like having to do this with people. I would rather just have the things I'm saying and the questions I'm asking be responded to in a rational, sane, and just manner. And people I speak with do respond that way, and you'll see in my outreach videos that I respond accordingly. I speak accordingly to those people. My tone is completely different. But when people start lying and making excuses for why they think it's okay and why it's acceptable in their minds to continue to enslave, murder, rape, kidnap, and etc., then I have a real problem with that. And I need to speak accordingly in order for them to understand how serious it is. Even if I can bother them a little bit, even if I can make them feel uncomfortable just slightly, I see that as the only way to get through to those people, if anything is going to get through to them. So based on my experience and based on what I've learned from Gary Yourofsky and his work, and I think he's done more outreach than anybody on the planet, that is my takeaway. And this is also what I've learned through my observation of activists throughout AV throughout the years. I may change my position in future. I'm always open, but I don't see how it can be done any better than what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, it's always nice to be open and be open to change your mind if you deem it as reasonable. I think that's what we always ask people, to open their mind, listen to what we have to say, and if they deem it as reasonable, then change your mind. You mentioned words like rape, murder, and this kind of words, which many people disagree and stop us from saying because they find it too condescending or not inappropriate, because they feel these are words which should be used in human context and not animal context. But I guess we're saying what it is, right?
Yeah, I think if we don't use the correct language, we're never going to address this injustice for what it is. I think the animals deserve correct language to be used to describe what they're going through. We're animals ourselves. To think that we are above the language you know, that they shouldn't have it applied to them is part of the problem. You know, human supremacism is the root of this problem.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and also you were saying before, like, you always adjust according to the person you have in front of you. And I've seen lots of your footage, lots of outreaches, and some people simply appreciate what you're telling them because they're willing to accept what you're saying, if for them it is reasonable, and they actually thank you for enlightening them and opening up their mind. Then others are just being assholes, and so we're responding the same way back as they're responding to you, sort of. So many people, when they see you as too harsh, you're just leveling up with the person that you have in front of you. Right?
Yeah, and you know, I make mistakes. Sometimes I'm more harsh than I should be. Sometimes I'm less harsh than I should be. You know, and it's a constant learning process. I'm going to always be hard on myself to make sure I'm the best I can be for the animals.
Yeah.
But I've arrived at this conclusion that I need to be this way in order to be the best I can be for the animals. I need to speak to people accordingly. I need to bother them. I need to get under their skin. I need them walking away feeling like there's nothing else that they can think about for the next hour or two, for the next day or two, for the next month or two. I need that to be, the probability of that to be as high as possible, because I know that that's what leads to change, especially when you consider how conditioned people are in regards to this in society. I mean, the whole world is making people feel comfortable about what's going on. When you think about it, everybody is okay with this, seemingly. No one is going to hold you accountable for this. I might be the only person that person speaks with in their entire lives that will hold them accountable, right? That will have even the slightest chance of making them feel bothered about this and uncomfortable about this.
Exactly.
So that's why I feel like I need to seize that opportunity. I can't just tell them information. I can't just say that this is food for thought. I can't use pandering and compromising on the message and focusing on being liked as a priority and being overly polite and things like this. Respectful, yes, but firm. It's necessary to be firm with people. But again, it depends on the person, right? I always adjust my tonality, and you guys, you know, last night I showed you some of my outreach and I showed you different contrasts. I showed you outreach interactions where people weren't offering lies and excuses and disgusting lines of reasoning for why they think it's acceptable to continue doing this to animals.
And mocking also, there were occasions of mocking also.
Yeah,
towards you.
Right, exactly. And people who are acting extremely entitled, and then, you know, people who are open to receiving the message and actually seeing the logic in what I'm saying, and it's a very simple truth. It's not complex whatsoever. So, you know, based on how people respond and based on even the people who offer arguments, if they're doing it in a genuine way, like they're genuinely concerned with figuring this out, I'll spend 20 minutes with them if that's what it takes. And I'll work through all of those things to make sure they really get it. I'll educate them. I'm all about that, if that's what it takes to get that person from point A to point Z. But, you know, in most cases, I like to keep it very short and sweet because it's simple, and I will adjust the way I speak according to the person.
So yeah, guys, when you see activists out in the street acting in a harsh manner, actually they're being passionate about what they're speaking about. The reason is because we are aware of how bad the situation is. We know the gravity of the situation. And we're sure that actually if you were on the oppressed side, you would want people to speak up for you. And you would want the oppressor to stop whatever they're doing as soon as possible.